Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series finale of The Flash. Great series finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Okay, so first and foremost, obviously, Barry, obviously the rest of Team Flash is now in the know about, that Eddie has been chosen as a new avatar, and it's like, well, what do we do about that? And Barry's back in present day, and he's rushing to be by Iris's side during all of this, trying to, let her know ahead of time, too, about, because obviously Nora's on the way, like, the contraptions are getting closer and closer, and at the same time, Team Flash is trying to get ready. So is Team Negative Speed Force. Because then we see, because we got the zoom of it all. I was like, no way, we're not doing this. Then we got Godspeed. Then we got Reverse Flash. And then we got Savitar, which I thought was so... I was like... we saw them at the end of the last episode, but I brought up the fact is they're all significant because obviously they all hate the Flash, but they also kind of hate the Flash lineage too, especially in Godspeed's case, because his beef is... like, Bart is his arch nemesis, so... But the fact of the matter is that all of these villains are brought together by, obviously, their hate for the Flash and that bloodline. But they were all also defeated by the Flash. I even love Eobard showing up, still wearing Wells' face, being like, yo, this is, Zoom, getting closer to Flash, pretending to be an ally. Why does that sound familiar? Oh, looks like you stole it straight out of my playbook. I don't even know if that even clicked in my head at the time, all those years ago. I don't even know if that really clicked in my head of like, maybe they even referenced it at the time, but I actually don't even know. I just don't remember. Because I wasn't reviewing, well, at least there's some reviews of season 2 on, I think I had started my reviews by then. But I'm like, I don't know if I correlated that because I didn't review all of season 2. I didn't start my reviews until like part way into season 2. So either way, I don't know. I'd love to know my thoughts back then. Like, did I even ever correlate that? And I don't think I ever did. But either way, all those who were defeated by the Flash are here, and I love the back and forth of like, oh, like I'm the god of speed, and then like Savitar, who claims to be the god of speed, shows up, but they've all been defeated by the Flash in some shape or form, and here is I love that Eobard's like, oh yeah, here's the useless person in the Thawne family branch, and it ends up being Eddie. Which I learned a lot of interesting things, but I'll get to that in a second. But Eddie's like, right, you guys couldn't defeat the Flash alone, but I brought us all here because we can together beat the Flash. And then he suits up. And his suit is basically what people have like been photoshopping him as. So I guess like everyone pretty much knew if he, like Eddie was always going to be the character Cobalt, was it Cobalt Blue? So the significance is, I read a little bit of that character's backstory. The character, at the end of the day, is a Thawne. Interestingly enough, in the comics, the character is Barry's twin brother, that they were separated at birth. And, like, there's a scientist named, like, Malcolm no, I don't think his name was, what's the first name, Malcolm? No, I think his name, he was Dr. Gilmore, ended up separating him from Barry, like, telling Barry's parents that, oh, the twin died, and he comes back later on as like a supervillain and stuff like that. But I was like, interesting, because what was Eddie's fake name in 2049? Malcolm Gilmore. And it's like, because the character's name is Malcolm Thawne, that's Cobalt Blue's character's real name in the comics, and he was taken in by Dr. Gilmore fake. Like, I was like, that's actually really sad and really heartbreaking when you actually, like, now knowing the history behind the significance of that name. Should have figured it had some significance, but I'm like, interesting, because I've never looked into who Eddie was going to be. Like, this, like, it's not until he said his name this episode, I was like, that's probably the name from a comic. And yeah, because I never knew how to look that character up. Probably would have been easier ways. But, like, once again, I think it's so interesting of taking elements from the comics and, like, nods and, like, homages to the comic, while also kind of taking your own spin on certain things, making it Eddie, because like, right, you probably could have done the whole twin situation, but you would have had to build up to that, but also making it Eddie. I mean, Eddie was already a thorn that you had in play, like, since season 1. It was always meant to come full circle in that regard, I'm sure. So making it come back all these seasons later, and also, like, Eddie's significance to Barry and Iris and to Team Flash in general, because if it wasn't for Eddie's sacrifice, Barry wouldn't be here. So it's like, it's all, I don't know if serendipitous would be the right word in that regard, but it's all like reciprocal, in that regard. But either way, pretty villainous of Eddie to show up at Iris in the hospital and stuff like that. It's like, right, we're going to end this right here and now, and you had to get it in one last time before the end of the show. Iris telling Barry to, so I just got 3 words: run, Barry, run. And the teams stack up. It's all the speedster, Legion of Zoom, as they call them. Because I think, I was about to say, because he has some kind of connection to Zoom in the comics, Cobalt Blue. I don't remember now off the top of my head. Whatever the case may be, I'm going on a tangent, but I do love, like, right, Team Flash stacks up. It's Cecile, Allegra, Nora shows up to help, as well as Keon and Mark. But it's like, you got your squad, I got mine. And I do think it's such interesting pairings that I do love that. First, like, one example being like Allegra and Eobard, that's one that it's like, right at the end, like, Eobard didn't get to go toe to toe with Barry, because it's like Barry's already kind of closed that loop, obviously, with the first part of this, like, meeting, like, it all coming full circle, him being the one that stopped, like, his younger self from season 1 from saving his mom, and it all this, so he's already closed that loop there. So I think it's important that the person he ends up facing in this moment is Eddie. But I even love that line from Allegra when he tried to kill Chuck. God, it feels weird just calling him Chester. But Allegra just says, like, Eobard, stop talking. I'm like, yeah, he loves to run his mouth. He really loves it. He loves the smell of his own shit. But it felt like poetic for that to be what she says to him. I also love Nora going up against Godspeed. It didn't even, like, click in my head to think, like, oh man, this is like how significant that would be, until, like, he held her up. It's like, right, your mom was supposed to die, but this time you will. Difference is, unlike Iris, she's a speedster, just phased through his blade, broke it off, and stabbed him. I was like, how very poetic, because it's like, right, that's kind of coming full circle in that regard. I also kind of think even the Cecile and Godspeed thing is interesting, because it's like, I'm making a reach here, but it's like, right, she can get inside your head, and lo and behold, in season 7, he didn't have his memories, and she was trying to help him, and now she's even more powerful, and he's just straight up the villain that he was, so it feels significant for her to be the one that ends up taking him down. Keon goes up against Zoom, which I love that he's, like, in front of, like, Singh and Kristen and all of them, and it's like, oh, like, they're looking for some payback for what he did all those years ago, and he's trying to build up speed and tries to, like, attack. But obviously it's like, means nothing when you're going up against Keon, who's literally a goddess, and she just absorbs all the electricity and sends it right back to him. I'm like, yeah. I also do like the significance too, that, like, and it speaks volumes that each and every one of them, like, now has, like, their lightnings are red, just like Eobard's, because they're all being, like, channeled. The power of the negative speed force is flowing through them, which it never did, because all their speeds did come from the speed force. I think Godspeed stayed the same, but Zoom did, like, he didn't always have red lightning. Yeah, because his lightning was always blue, I believe, so I do like the fact that it is a conquer and divide situation, but it is still, like, a thing of, like, Team Flash is like, no, we got this. We've been through so many battles. We know what to do. So, and then obviously it comes down finally to Barry and Eddie, but then lo and behold, Jay shoots. I'm like, got it, because I saw John Wesley Shipp's name. I was like, got to get one final appearance. And, well, not just one final appearance, but getting, got to do his thing, and ends up stealing, God, he made some reference that I was like, oh, that's actually super dope. He's like, oh, I learned this from someone, and I'm blanking on what name he said. Oh, I was like, oh, that's actually pretty dope. But it seems like Eddie's trying to do the exact same thing that Thawne did last season. That was his ultimate end, was trying to like overload his system with the negative speed force, just trying to like draw in more and more power. Because for them, it's like, once again, it's that sad thing of like Eddie's desire to be a hero. It's there, and he's just like, he's letting the negative speed force consume him and twist that. Once again, the most potent type of hate is when you turn love into hate. So taking that good and turning it into evil makes it that much more potent. But for Barry, it's like, I don't want to just let I don't want Eddie to suffer the same fate as Eobard, because at the end of the day, it's like, I will always owe him. He's a hero. He's not a villain. Like, Eobard's always, like, he could have been a hero, but he from the very beginning was consumed by hate. But Eddie's always been a good guy and made the ultimate sacrifice. It's like, I can't let things end this way. I can't let him destroy himself, because time is starting to fracture. And now it's like, well, how do I do this? I got to go to the negative speed force and try and save Eddie. But then you have Keon bringing up, then this cycle will continue. But for Barry, it's like, what am I supposed to do? At the end of the day, we get stronger, they get stronger. The battle between the speed force and the negative speed force, like our sides being what they are, it's always going to be what it is. It's always been like that. It's always going to be that way. But for Keon, it's like, you have to change your perspective. And for him, it's like, I tried not fighting. Thawne wouldn't give in, and he kept fighting and ended up dying. And regardless, so what am I supposed to do? And Keon was saying, like, change your perspective, because there is more to balance, there's more to finding that equilibrium than balance. It's about coexistence and trying to find that way. And ultimately, Barry goes to the negative speed force to try and stop Eddie. And like, it seems like it's going to be a repeat of the Thawne situation, because Barry's not going to fight back. But it's like, and with every blow, he's like, I win, I always win. And you just like cut back to Eobard saying the same thing. And it's just like, you're kind of like a shadow of like him, and his like history's repeating itself, but it doesn't have to be, because Barry talks to him and it's like, you are a hero. The difference between you and Eobard is he let his hate consume him and he became a villain. You've always been a hero. You don't have to listen to the negative speed force. And it's talking to him and like, no, you can have this, you can have that, you can have your life. But Barry was able to kind of speak to that part of Eddie. And he chose, he will have to remain as the negative speed force's avatar, but he won't be controlled by the negative speed force. It's his time to rise up as kind of a hero in his own right, because there has to be balance in this world. You can't the negative speed force can't just be destroyed, because the speed force getting destroyed would knock everything off balance. But that's the whole point of like, right, once that's gone, the negative speed force will be unchecked, and I'll create a new world where I'll have a family, where I'll be the hero. Once again, Eobard's situation stemmed from the same thing of wanting to be the hero, having that taken from him, and his hate running so deep for not only Barry, but for his entire lineage. And it obviously is reflected in the negative speed force too, because it's like, right, you're unnatural, like, oh, all good, no evil, like we have our place in this as well. But the negative speed force was put in check by Eddie, and now it is a thing of like, right, we won't always agree, and it's like, yeah, but we can find a way forward. Which I know that's not going to sit well with some people, like oh god, of course it ends with talk no jutsu. But and I get it, it's a cliche in any main protagonist, especially like a shonen protagonist bag. But I like talk no jutsu. I love that being like the number one power in any superhero's belt. I get that, but I know that isn't like, oh, like big speech, pep talks and stuff like that. I'm so used to it that I'm fine with it, because I'm that like nerdy dude that's all gushy about like, yeah, friendship and the power of the heart. I'm a massive Kingdom Hearts fan. That's what that entire franchise is about. So like, I'm used to it, and once again, it's like, it's shonen hero, main protagonist cliche, but I love it, cheesy and whatnot. I love the friendship stuffs, and it's all about the power of heart and being able to kind of reach out to someone else. So that's an interesting development, making it so right, the negative Speed Force and the Speed Force coexist. What that kind of looks like, we won't get to see, but that is kind of an interesting thing. Also, that doesn't mean that's going to last forever. Eddie's the current avatar. The negative Speed Force is always going to try, the next avatar, it's I'm going to try and get you, and it's always going to be this cycle of trying to extend that bridge of coexistence so that we can end this, because this back and forth has always been, and across the entire series has always been, this battle of this cycle of violence and death, and this was the first time, once again, it coming full circle, that Eddie tried to stop Eobard. And now he kind of wins in the end again. So it all comes full circle on so many levels. That, hey, I saved Barry. This time Barry's saving me by making hey, I'm the negative Speed Force's avatar, but I don't have to follow down Eobard's path, because now I get to form my own legacy, which I felt was actually kind of pretty dope. And obviously that's what this is all about in both sides of the fence, a legacy. So, but when it's all said and done, Barry's able to be there with Iris while she's giving birth. Obviously Nora's there too, which is oh, am I breaking some time travel? It's a little bit, but yeah, we won't say too much about it, because it is kind of weird that you're there for your birth. Joe's there. We find out Chester is 100% okay. It actually turns out that back from when he was a black hole, there are elements of that still inside him. So he's whoa, I'm a meta, and it's what did we? I mean, maybe his character, or at least some version of that character, because once again, even taking Cecile for example, was once again, that's actually two characters from the comics put together in one. Cecile and I brought up last episode, Cecile and Virtue are two separate characters in the comics who are now one character for the show. So it could be a thing of who Chester is. Maybe he just straight up is a meta in the comics, or maybe it's just a situation of they took elements of his character and combined them with someone else's. So that's the reason why he survived Eobard's lightning, even though even Mark was yo, that's enough to put down 4 horses or something, not 4 elephants or something like that. But I also love, once again, a lot of things coming full circle. The original Wells, who was off time traveling, kind of up and down his own timeline, shows up for Keon to tell her, right, it's time to say goodbye, which is obviously the hardest thing for, a force of nature like she is, or kind of the natural order being that she is, and even for a time traveler. But I love that line of, it's not about kind of saying goodbye. It's more so about taking a piece of everyone with you, wherever and whenever you go. And I was I love that. That's really beautiful. And so, I mean, especially because I was about to say, he would know better than anyone how hard it is to say goodbye. It's what is he doing with his time travel stuff? It's spending time with his wife until time kind of catches up with him or whatever. So that was kind of his thing. Nora comes into this world, and Joe holding her in his arms, being oh, I guess, my baby girl has a baby girl of her own, and I guess it's I can't, you're not my baby girl anymore. But it's no, I am. I always will be. And her thinking about her and Barry's story over the course of the series, everything that they've been through to get to the moment that they are right now, and I thought that was beautiful. And obviously, Keon saying her goodbye to the entire team, because she has to fully embrace who she is, and she's going to be kind of a protector of the natural order. It's she's part of this team, she's part of this family, and, they will always be a part of her, just like she will always be a part of them. But one final gift, from kind of one goddess to the team, is she ended up bringing Caitlin back, because it's hey, yeah, everything that I am is this energy. And so very Avatar-esque, all the elements come together as she leaves the body. But it's yeah, because I'm becoming this ethereal thing, I don't need a physical body anymore. So Caitlyn's back. And I do love that we do have that final line between her and Barry, where Barry apologizes how everything played out the last time they talked to each other. But for her, it's no, what happened, and it was a thing of, especially a little bit of Keon kind of stayed behind, and she realizes like, right, me trying to bring Frost back the way I was, like, was very unnatural. And it's like, I get, it's about legacies and her carrying on Frost's legacy. I thought was, very beautiful, and it's just kind of like a nice little gift. I can see someone still having an issue with like, oh God, you brought Caitlyn. I mean, you never brought Frost back, so she is perma gone. But I do think it is nice, and just once again, kind of a final gift from a goddess. It's like, yeah, one final gift before I bring. I mean, because it's also natural, because it's like, hey, I needed a physical body, and so it's like on some level, Caitlyn was always there beneath the surface. I think when Keon leaving that body behind, it's like, oh, let me just kind of plant this seed back inside of this body, and oh, Caitlyn's there. So I thought that was beautiful. Just everyone gathered together. Kristen, the OG Wells, who's the time traveler that is now, Sing, everyone is together. Jay and God, I'm blanking on his wife's name. But everyone's together. I did know that the actor who plays Cisco wasn't going to be in the series finale. I saw something kind of pop up earlier. It's kind of a bummer. Wish the whole squad was here, but it is what it is. But when it's all said and done, Joe's kind of so swept up in the moment that he decides that he's going to propose to Cecile, which I think is kind of like, first and foremost, I was like, oh wait, you guys aren't married. I kind of forgot about that until he was about ready to pop the question. I even love her being like, wait. And she throws out the pillow for him to get on her knee and just like, okay. I thought that was beautiful. It's, because it's like, right. Seeing his family around him, obviously, like, everything him and Cecile have been through these past couple years, obviously raising Jenna, reminding Cecile how much of a great mom she is. It was so beautiful. I love it. Even Nora holding herself and being like, wow, you thought my birth was crazy for these past 24 hours? Wait till Bart's due date. And it's like, cool, so great. But I was like, okay, we still got time, because especially when they played the title card, I was like, okay, there's still some time. So what are we going to do with this? Is like Barry going to suit up one more time? And he does, but I love it. It's like him, like the opening monologue. Like, I'm going to need you to believe in the impossible. And it's him talking to Nora, telling her about their family. And Barry making a choice. And I love it coming full circle of, like, that line again from Oliver. I didn't realize that line, like, apparently Oliver had said that line to Barry, like, because there's a video you can find of just, like, right, it's like, I meant to watch it, but I came across it where it's like, right, Oliver saying the same line of that lightning bolt chose you 9 years apart. But I do kind of remember it originally, but I didn't even think about that when Oliver said it again. But now it's like, it is a situation of like, Oliver told me that lightning bolt chose me. Now it's my time to choose. And him running and shooting a bolt of lightning in the air and it's splitting 3 ways. I was like, that's actually super dope. I was like, that's amazing, because it's like, right, it isn't just about holding on to this power to myself. It's like, right, maybe by sharing it, this could go about making the world a better place, a better world for Nora and eventually Bart to grow up in. And we ended up seeing the 3 new chosen. I'm assuming those are speedsters from the comics as well. But to me, the significance of him being the one that gets to choose now, I'm like, that's, once again, it's all about legacies and spreading that legacy of the Speed Force around. I'm like, that's actually super dope. I was like, that's actually an amazing way to end this off. And so one of them is actually we met her last season. She's the girl that, like, obviously, I'm blanking on her name. They said her name again, but she's the person that Bart was kind of falling for, which I'm like, is that going to turn into a little bit of a Nate situation where Nate kept falling in love with women, like, outside of, like, I wonder, is that going to be part of Bart's story, falling in love with a woman that's kind of like, I mean, there's probably like, that, because obviously she's, you're both about the same age, but she's in 2023, you're in 2049, so that's, again, the 26-year difference that is. So I'm curious, is that going to be part of their story? Because it's like, yeah, especially if she's becoming a speedster and he's a speedster and they already like kind of like linked up last season and significance in that regard. I just thought that was actually, I just think that's a beautiful way to end things. And obviously having Barry run of like, yeah, talking about making this world a better place. I thought that was a beautiful way to end things off, especially in so many regards, because it's still connecting to the Arrow, which this is a spin-off from. It's just, to me, it's a significant and beautiful into the Flash, but also just kind of like, you know, once again, the spark of that next chapter in this legacy. And what that means going forward. I think that's just kind of a dope way to end things. And it's that sad situation of like, yeah, this is the end of the Flash, but also the end of the Arrowverse. And I'll go ahead and talk about that. The Arrowverse as a whole, but even the Flash, I know has been very up and down for a lot of people. Probably more down than up. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, oh, everyone's been in love with. Like, I've thoroughly enjoyed everything. I've liked every season. I've liked every step of the way. I know it's not been that way for other people, and that's okay. Like, you know, for some people, it's like, they jumped ship a long time ago, and they're fine with that. And it's just, no, I'm not going to bash someone for feeling that way. The show hasn't resonated with you. You didn't like it, you know, for, you know, writing or direction the story is going in, that's perfectly fine. But like I said, I've loved every step of the way. I've loved every step of the way with the Arrowverse. Even the stuff outside of the Arrowverse, whether it's a Naomi, a Superman and Lois, a Stargirl, obviously the significance of like, yeah, Titans on well, now it's officially Max, having come to an end, and then Doom Patrol is going to be coming to an end. I mean, we still got the Harley Quinn animated. There's a lot in this DC like televised world, and obviously things are changing with the DCU. So it is interesting, like obviously the end of one era and the start of another, because like the DCU stuff doesn't like officially I guess start until like James Gunn's like stuff starts fully rolling out, I guess, to some extent. Maybe the Flash is kind of like technically the end and beginning, both in the movie regard and kind of in this regard too. So there is like a significant parallel, considering the movie comes out like a little less than a month from now. So there's so many parallels that can be drawn there. But like I said, at the end of the day, I love this franchise. Both the Flash and the Arrowverse. Thank you to everyone involved. For everyone involved in everything DC related in all of this. Big part, I gotta give big thanks to like, you know, Greg Berlanti, because he's been kind of like the figurehead of all of this. So it's so interesting to see how much that little seed that was Arrow spread out into so much. And I'm grateful to have been on this 11-year journey that has been the Arrowverse. Like I said, there's been stuff in and out of the Arrowverse that's been a part of it. Not everything was able to get its proper ending, like a Legends or a Batwoman, but we did get some final appearances in some regards. Not necessarily on the Legends front, but more so on the like Batwoman front. So there's some clarity, but not fully. But it's still been one hell of a journey, and I want to thank everyone that's been involved in front of the camera, behind the camera, all across every show that's been like, you know, DC related, like just all things CW DC related. And thank you for so many shows and so many characters that I've fallen in love with. So many actors I've fallen in love with because of the portrayal of these characters. And so it is this beautiful thing of this is the end, but it's a beautiful legacy in my mind. Once again, it has its blemishes for other people, and you know, maybe it does for me too, but I still love it as a whole, and I will always be grateful for these 11 years, you know? So, but yeah, that's just kind of all I think I really wanted to say as we close this chapter. So, till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and good